Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be stepping back in time a bit.
A deep dive back in time. Hi.
Exactly. To the world of Roman soldiers.
Ooh.
But not the battles or the armor.
No.
We're going for something a little more down to earth, something all of us can relate to.
Right.
What were these guys eating?
What were they eating?
On those long marches and campaigns.
Yeah.
You got to keep your energy up.
You got to fuel up.
Yeah.
That's right.
What was Roman soldier chow like?
Yeah, it's more than just a list of ingredients, though, right?
Right.
It's a glimpse into their discipline,
Yeah.
their logistics, their culture.
Absolutely.
It's all tied in there.
We're using an article called "What Did Roman Soldiers Eat? Food of the Roman Army" as our guide today.
Oh, excellent.
And I've got to say,
Yeah.
I always imagined a pretty bleak picture.
Yeah.
Lots of gruel,
Uh-huh.
maybe some stale bread.
Maybe some hardtack.
But it turns out
Yeah.
it's a lot more interesting
Uh-huh.
and maybe even a little gourmet in places.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So
Yeah.
to kind of set the scene here,
Yeah, let's do that.
imagine you're a Roman soldier.
Right.
Okay, you're marching for miles every day,
Yep.
carrying all your gear.
Oh, yeah.
You got your sword, your shield, your armor.
All that. And you got to carry your food, too.
Yeah, you've got to carry your food, too.
Yes.
That must have been a logistical nightmare.
It was a huge factor. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Each soldier had to carry enough rations for 3 days.
Wow.
So think about that practicality, listener.
Yeah.
This diet wasn't just about filling their stomachs. It had to fuel those grueling physical demands.
And, thinking about practicality like that,
Right.
it makes the idea of barley as punishment
Oh, yeah.
make a lot more sense.
That's right.
It wasn't just about giving them bland food. It was
Mhm.
about adding a whole layer of social stigma to it.
That's exactly.
The article said it was almost like extra duty.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It shows how strategically Romans used food.
Right.
And it really highlights the importance they placed on wheat.
Uh,
We're talking 60 to 75% of their diet.
wow.
Yeah.
So basically, a whole lot of bread.
A lot of bread.
But I guess you can't get much more practical than that when you're on the move.
Right. But this wasn't your typical loaf.
Okay.
Imagine biting into a butylatum.
A what?
Butylatum.
Okay.
A super dense,
Uh-huh.
twice-baked biscuit, almost like a brick.
Okay. I'm starting to understand why they called it a punishment.
It was all about durability,
Yeah.
designed to last on those long marches.
Makes sense.
And honestly, it might be fun to try making one.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine the crunch.
We should try and make that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
You know what? I'm totally in. Maybe a modern twist on the recipe.
Yeah, like maybe add some honey or something.
Yeah.
Or get a little sweeter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. All that bread must have gotten pretty boring after a while.
I imagine so, yeah.
I'm guessing Roman soldiers
Yeah.
weren't vegetarians?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Meat was a key part of their diet,
Okay.
and they got it from a surprising variety of sources.
Really?
They hunted,
Oh, cool.
which not only supplemented their rations,
Okay.
but also built teamwork and camaraderie.
So dinner and a bonding exercise all in one.
Precisely.
Cool.
They also acquired livestock locally,
Okay.
sometimes through what the article calls aggressive negotiations,
Aggressive negotiation.
which makes you wonder about the stories behind those acquisitions.
Right, like how aggressive are we talking here?
Yeah.
A little bartering.
Right.
Or full-on Roman conquest.
Yeah, who knows?
I guess we'll leave that to the imagination.
Yeah, let's leave that to the imagination.
But they also had preserved meats, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Like jerky or something similar?
Think bacon,
Oh,
ham
wow.
sausage,
Really?
all familiar staples,
Wow.
but remarkably well preserved for those times.
Makes sense.
And we can't forget about the ritual sacrifices.
Okay, now we're talking dinner and a show.
Right.
Tell me more about that.
It was called the suavituria,
Suaviturelia.
a sacrifice of a pig,
Okay.
a sheep, and a bull to the gods.
Oh, wow.
And yes,
Ada?
part of the meat would be consumed by the soldiers.
Okay.
It was a ritual that wove cultural and religious significance into their diet.
So food was much more than just fuel. It
Right.
was almost a social and religious experience.
Exactly.
Really interesting.
And speaking of the variety in their diet,
Yeah.
let's not forget about some of the other staples.
All right, let's round out this Roman menu.
Okay.
We've got the bread,
Got the bread.
the meat.
Uh-huh.
What else were these soldiers eating?
Well, for starters, they had cheese.
Cheese.
And not just some fancy import either. They
Uh-oh.
often made it on the go.
Cheesemakers on the march.
I know, right?
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
I guess it makes sense, though.
Yeah,
Cheese is portable,
right.
packs a good amount of protein and calcium,
Exactly.
lightweight,
Yeah.
nutritious,
Uh-huh.
and probably a welcome change from all that bread and meat.
Definitely.
The article also talks about legumes being a big part of their diet.
Yeah.
So beans, lentils, things like that.
Precisely. Packed with protein and fiber.
Makes sense.
And again,
Well,
very practical for storage and transport.
right.
And of course, you can't forget about vegetables.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to ask about that.
Yeah.
So I'm picturing some very basic stuff.
Okay.
Like maybe just some wilted lettuce
Uh-huh.
and tough carrots.
You'd be surprised.
Really?
Well, they definitely prioritized what would travel well and last a while.
Right.
They understood even back then that they needed those vitamins and nutrients to stay healthy and fight effectively.
It wasn't just about filling their bellies.
Right.
It was also about making sure that they could still
Yeah,
keep up the fight.
absolutely.
So maybe not a salad bar,
Probably not.
but definitely more variety than I initially pictured.
Yes, definitely more variety.
Okay, so we've got our grains,
Okay.
meat,
Uh-huh.
cheese,
Yeah.
veggies.
Yep.
That leaves us with salt and sour wine.
Oh, yes.
What's the story with those?
Well, salt's pretty straightforward.
Okay,
Essential for preserving food,
right.
especially the meat.
Makes sense.
Logistically, that was a must for keeping the army fed on long campaigns.
Especially back then.
Yeah, absolutely.
No refrigeration or anything like that.
Exactly.
You got to keep that stuff from going bad.
You need some, and salt, was it?
Salt, the original food preserver.
That's right.
But sour wine?
Yes.
I'm still a bit confused about that one.
Okay.
What was that all about?
It was mainly used for making Posca,
Posca,
which was essentially their version of an energy drink.
an energy drink.
I know.
Really?
Sounds pretty strange
It does.
to our modern tastes.
Vinegar and wine?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'd be lining up for that.
It wasn't exactly a tasty treat.
Okay.
It was definitely more about function than flavor.
So did they like it?
Well, think of it as a necessary evil,
Okay.
safer to drink than untreated water.
Mm,
Plus, it provided some essential nutrients.
I see.
So,
Yeah, I guess when you're marching for miles,
right,
anything that keeps you going is a
absolutely.
good thing.
I got to do what you got to do.
But beyond those core ingredients,
Yes.
there's one more we shouldn't overlook.
Okay.
Olive oil.
Ah, yes.
It always seems to pop up when you talk about ancient cultures,
It does.
especially around the Mediterranean.
Right.
Olive oil.
The liquid gold.
Yeah.
And for good reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The article points out that olive oil was used for everything.
Really?
Cooking,
Okay.
frying,
Uh-huh.
preserving food,
Wow.
even for personal hygiene.
Talk about versatile.
It really was.
It really makes you appreciate the level of planning
Yeah.
and coordination that must have gone into feeding a whole army on the move.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking supply chains,
Yeah.
storage, distribution.
Yeah.
It's like a massive mobile operation.
It truly was.
And those 6 main feed categories,
Right.
grains,
Grains.
meat, vegetables,
Vegetables.
cheese,
Salt.
and sour wine for the Pascha,
Right.
all had to be accounted for.
Absolutely.
Plus enough olive oil to keep things running smoothly.
Yeah, literally.
It's no wonder the Romans were so successful.
It is amazing.
They were masters of logistics.
They were.
Okay, so we've got the ingredients.
Okay.
We've got the logistics.
Huh.
But I'm still picturing a pretty chaotic scene
Okay.
with thousands of soldiers
Right.
trying to cook their own meals.
Yeah.
Did they have designated chefs in the army?
Well, remember the Contubernium system we mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
That group of 8 soldiers who shared living quarters.
The cooking squad. Did they have a rotating chef of the week or something?
Not exactly a designated chef,
Okay.
but definitely a team effort.
Okay.
They were all responsible for their own meal prep,
Okay.
taking turns collecting,
Uh-huh.
preparing,
Yeah.
and distributing food.
I can imagine that getting pretty interesting at times.
I imagine so.
8 guys trying to figure out dinner
Right.
after a long day's march.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That shared responsibility probably helped build camaraderie and teamwork.
Yeah.
Plus, it forced them to be resourceful and adaptable,
Mm-hmm.
which was crucial in those times,
Right.
especially if supplies were running low
Right.
or they were in unfamiliar territory.
No fancy chefs.
Yep.
Just 8 buddies figuring it out together.
That's right.
It makes you think about the social aspects of food,
It does.
how it brings people together even in challenging circumstances.
Absolutely. And speaking of challenges, remember how we discussed barley as punishment?
Right, fermentum mutum. It makes you realize that even something as basic as food, could be used to maintain order and discipline within the ranks.
Exactly. It was a powerful tool.
Sort of like a tough love approach to mealtime.
I like that.
It's a fascinating glimpse into the power dynamics within the Roman army.
It really is.
Food was a privilege,
It was.
not just a right.
Yeah.
And it could be manipulated to reward or punish, motivate, or demoralize.
That's right.
It's amazing how something we often take for granted
I know, right?
can reveal so much about a culture.
It is.
But I'm curious,
Yeah.
with all this focus on practicality and discipline,
Mm-hmm.
was there any room for personal preference or enjoyment
Ooh.
when it came to Roman soldier chow?
Good question.
Or was it purely about survival?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to some even more interesting aspects of Roman food culture. It might seem like Roman soldier chow was all about strict rations,
Yeah.
survival,
Right.
but there was actually some room for personal choice and adaptation.
So it wasn't just eat this soldier and be grateful.
Not entirely. They had their standardized rations,
Right.
but soldiers could supplement those through things like foraging and hunting.
So a bit of entrepreneurial spirit in the ranks.
Yeah.
Were they trading with locals too?
Exactly. Think about it.
Yeah.
Soldiers stationed in different regions
Mm-hmm.
would have had access to all sorts of different local foods.
Oh, that makes sense.
That adds variety
Yeah.
and a little bit of individuality to the diet.
So you're not going to find the same ingredients in the mountains of Gaul as you would in the deserts of North Africa.
Precisely.
It paints a more human picture of these soldiers, doesn't it?
It does.
They weren't just robots following orders. They
Mhm.
were finding ways to make their meals a little more interesting.
Absolutely. And this regional variation adds another dimension to our understanding of Roman food culture.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one monolithic thing.
Right.
It was adaptable. It was influenced by the places they conquered.
Yeah.
It speaks to that pragmatic mindset, always looking for ways to utilize the resources at hand.
Yeah. It's amazing how food can tell us so much about a civilization.
It really is.
You're talking about their daily lives,
Uh-huh.
their values,
Yeah.
their ingenuity,
Right.
all through something as basic as what they ate.
Food is a powerful lens through which to view history.
Yeah.
And in the case of the Roman army,
Mm-hmm.
it really highlights their focus on efficiency and resource management.
It makes sense.
Those weren't just qualities they brought to the battlefield.
Right.
They were ingrained in every aspect of their lives,
Uh-huh.
right down to the food they ate.
Right. And speaking of those everyday details,
Yeah.
I keep thinking back to those contubernia,
Yeah.
those groups of 8 soldiers who shared meal prep.
Yeah.
That must have been a really unique experience.
It must have been.
Cooking and eating together like that day in and day out.
Yes. Those cooking squads were more than just logistical units.
Right.
They fostered a sense of community and camaraderie. That must have been vital in such a demanding and often dangerous environment.
Can you imagine those 8 guys gathered around a fire after a long march,
Oh, yeah.
sharing stories and maybe even swapping recipes as they cooked their meals?
I can picture it.
It creates such a vivid picture, doesn't it?
It really does. And it humanizes those soldiers, reminding us that even amidst the strict discipline of the Roman army,
Yeah.
there was still room for those simple human connections.
Yeah.
It makes you think about the power of food to bring people together, even in the most challenging of circumstances.
It really does, from barley as punishment to vinegar energy drinks.
Right?
We've uncovered a surprising amount about the culinary world of the Roman army.
We have.
I've got to say, this deep dive has completely changed my perspective.
Really.
I had no idea. It was such a complex and fascinating topic.
It's been a journey, hasn't it?
It has.
And for me, the biggest takeaway is that ingenuity and adaptability of their food system,
Uh-huh.
they managed to feed a vast mobile army across all sorts of different terrains and climates.
That's incredible.
It's a testament to their organizational skills,
Yeah,
their resourcefulness,
makes sense.
and their understanding of the importance of a well-fed army.
Right. It's a good reminder that food was so much more than just fuel for these soldiers.
Absolutely.
It was a tool for discipline,
Yes,
a source of camaraderie,
Uh-huh.
and a reflection of their cultural values.
it really was.
It wasn't just about survival.
No,
It was about creating a system that contributed to their success on and off the battlefield.
absolutely. Their approach to food was as strategic and well-organized as their military campaigns.
Well, listeners, we've come to the end of our deep dive into Roman soldier chow.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Hopefully you found it as enlightening as I did.
Yes.
Maybe it'll make you think a little differently about what's on your own plate tonight.
Perhaps it'll inspire you to be a little more mindful of your own food choices
Yeah.
or to appreciate those connections that food creates in your own life.
From barley bricks to fish sauce.
It's been fun.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you next time for another exploration into the world of knowledge.